Yes, indeed. Welcome back to Sunrise. This time we're focusing on the budget. A figure for the 2017 budget has been put forward by the president, about over 7 trillion naira. That's what the president... 7.3 trillion naira. That's what the president presented for the National Assembly, and it's been broken down to various ones. It's 20% above what was proposed in 2016, and it's supposed to be funded from different avenues, oil and non-oil revenues. Now, before the joint session of National Assembly, that was done within the course of the week. I'm trying to look at the exact figure. Okay, what I have is 7.298 trillion naira, 20.4% higher than what was in 2016.
And the budget of recovery and growth.
Based on a benchmark of $42.5 per barrel, an oil production of 2.2 million barrels per day, average exchange rate put at 305 to $1. Aggregate revenues available to fund the federal budget about 4.94 trillion naira. Then the others are supposed to come from, with a deficit of about 2.36 trillion naira. Now all of this is, it's a lot of work.
A lot of figures.
A lot of figures, plenty of figures. But we're not going to do that. We have people that will help us look at the entire budget as it is and how it's been broken down. How would it work? So we have in the studio...
Look at specific areas of the budget.
Okay. Well, I'll start out by introducing the economists. I have Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, an economist. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Aladotun Mabinori is also an economist. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
To look at the other side of it, Remy Adesion is a project director, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Partnership for Advocacy in Child and Family Health. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Mr. Onai Komu, a security expert. Thank you for joining us.
Right, sir.
The only one we didn't have here is an educationist. We've looked at the economy, health, security, but the education, maybe we'll all tie into the education. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so let me begin with the economists. Mr. Idahosa, when you heard or saw the president, because we had that live footage of that, when you saw the president doing the presentation and later you heard the breakdown of the proposals for 2017 as against 2016, what was your reaction?
Well, it's a ritual that has to take place. So that's the first thing. The second thing was that it's coming in December, 2 or 3 weeks before January 1. It's the budget for 2017. And clearly the National Assembly is not even going to look at the budget before 1st of January.
So before the 10th of January?
Yeah. Yeah, because the budget is supposed to start running from 1st of January. So that's the first thing. Like 3 months behind time. The other thing is a 20% increase on previous year, 18% inflation. So what's the increase? 2%. That's the real increase. And you take the size of the budget as a whole and you look at the enormity of the issues you have. So it's not the figure of the budget, it's the policy that are coming with the budget that will make meaning for Nigerians. Because that 7.3 million, if you put all of it in just universities alone, talking about education, you won't scratch the surface of what you need to fix education. So what you're always looking for is what are the policies behind the budget. The first one, which is very good, which is a landmark for our country and for the oil and gas industry, is that they promised to do it, they already signed it, exiting the joint venture calls. That exiting of the joint venture calls alone is bringing billions and billions of dollars additional income. That is far more than what the budget can even do. So it is those kind of policies that they promise. They also promise to pay the power companies. They are owing the power companies 100 billion naira. So if you are owing me 100 billion naira and you want me to supply power, I mean, how am I going to do it? So the president promised that they are going to pay those bills. So we have to look at key policies that are embedded in the president's statement and see that they are implemented very, very quickly, because that is what will drive the growth that they promise, not the numbers.
Mr. Mabineri,
yes, sir.
Your take?
Well, I would like to look at the budget holistically before we go to the details. Most of us are looking at the nominal value of the budget from, in comparison to last year's budget of 6.06 trillion naira. Now we have 7.298 trillion naira. If you look at it in real terms, there are different aspects of looking at it. Let's look at it from the angle of exchange rates, because we are looking at it as they call it a budget of recovery and growth. To me, I think the first part of it is achievable, but the second part might actually not be achievable because of certain reasons. We're looking at it as the nominal value, that is increased from 6.0 to 7.298. But if you look at it, last year's budget in dollar terms was about $30 billion. That's if you divide that 6.0 by the exchange rate in the budget, which was 197, we have about $30 billion. But if you do the one of this year, the 7.298 divided by 305, the exchange rate, we have something about $23 billion. So that's to tell you that the budget actually did not increase as we are all seeing it. It's actually a reduction from what we have. So we want to move out of recession, and we are cutting back the budget. So if you look at it, if you have to maintain last year's budget of $30 billion that we had last year, multiply with exchange rate of 305, we should be looking at a budget of 9 trillion naira this time around. That's even to maintain the level of our activities last year. To maintain that this year, we should have that. That's even on a part of exchange rate. Once we look at the exchange of the part of inflation.
Can I stop you? You're talking about an exchange rate based on 195. That was the official exchange. 197. That was what the budget was based on
last year.
Last year.
Between the time the budget was signed and now, when they had the 2017 budget, the exchange rate wasn't 197. The exchange was actually 305.
No, that's what we're looking at. At least we'll look at what the government has presented. 197 last year, 305 this year. Let's leave the real. That's their own projection. We are not even talking about what we have in the real. Dollar as we speak today is about 500 naira. So let's even look at what they have presented. 197 in comparison to 305. So that means the budget of this year is actually about $7 billion lower than what we had last year. Do you understand? So I would say we want to move out of, not just move out of recession, want to experience growth. Fine, the government is actually trying, because if you look at the details of the budget, I'm still talking on the budget as a, as a whole. So if you now look at it into details, then you know, okay, if all these programs can truly be implemented. That's even on the part of exchange rate. If you look at it on the part of inflation rates projected last year, last year was 9.81. This year was 15.7. So if you look at the difference between that and now in terms of percentage increase, we're having about 60% increase in values of goods and services. That means there's enormous pressure of about 60% on expenditure, on spending, on our income as Nigerians. So if our income has been reduced or has been threatened to the tune of 60%, then these budgets, I don't think is enough to take us out of recession.
Okay, but just before we go on to other guests, you said something about the budget should be around 9 trillion naira.
Yes, if you have to maintain last year's budget based on the exchange rate.
We're still talking about funding even the one that we're talking about. Yeah,
that's why I said we didn't get overnight. We can't get out of it overnight. I'm just being realistic. Okay, if we are to look at the exchange rate, because the exchange, we are looking at there's actually a theory in economics we call ISLM analysis. That's the agreement of the real sector and the monetary sector in the economy. Now, if you look at what we have in Nigeria right now, it's more or less like there is a disagreement between the monetary sector and the real sector. That is where the fiscal aspect, which is what government is doing, the budget, to use budget to regulate the economy, and what the monetary sector is doing. So there is actually more or less like a disagreement between them. So until both of them come together, look at an interest rate that will, an income level that will make both sectors of the economy to be at equilibrium, then we might not be ready to.
Let's go to the health sector. Last year the budget was around